A while back, there was a sports announcer named Jimmy the Greek.
I know, I remember him.
Okay. He went on the air and he said that black athletes are so dominant in American sports because of slavery, because they're the ship ride over, they're weeded out, that the weak died on the ships.
That's partly true.
And then once they actually got to the plantations in the U.S., the ones that died while working the fields, those
they took the strongest of the strong, first of all.
Right.
They took the strongest from Africa, got them over here, and of course during the trip and all of that.
I mean, did they really take the strongest from Africa, or were they just grabbing everyone they could grab?
Well, first of all, it wasn't like that at first. It was trickery. Okay, y'all wasn't some bad motherfuckers where y'all could just walk in there and be like, "Come here, you're coming with me." It was, "Come here. You know what? I can get you more money over in this new land than you getting over here." Really? Yeah, come on with me. I'm gonna show you. Watch. Now, when you're halfway over the trip, now you realize what's going over, but we don't have cell phones to call back and say, "These motherfuckers tricked us." So on the way over, some people jumped the ship, but then they got over there, they went back. They told these motherfuckers, "Hey, oh, your people's living like kings and queens over there right now. They're getting way more money. Come on." Oh, really? Yeah, they told me to send you a message. Da, 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 da. It was a whole bunch of that shit going on at first. And by the time they weakened us, listen, by the time they got it weak and we got hip to what the fuck was going on, now we've been so fragmented, and a lot of our strong, courageous people, because it takes a courageous motherfucker to say, "You know what, I'm going to go to a new land and do what I got to do." A lot of our strongest, most courageous, bold motherfuckers are now gone. Now we're left with the weaker ones. Now you can go in and just start capturing motherfuckers.
Right. And part of it, from what I understand, was some of the warring tribes in Africa when they would
they would sell their prisoners of war and shit like that.
They would sell their POWs to the slave masters for money, and so you had
these were warriors, you see. So if you're selling your prisoner of war, the warriors are the strongest men within the community. That's why they go to be the warriors. So ultimately, yes, they were taking some of the strongest people, but this is not just the only reason why we're strong. We're strong because we're the original people of the planet Earth, and this melanin has something to do with our not just physical strength either, our mental strength, our spiritual attunement. All of these things melanin has something to do with, not just the physical. Anything physical is really a representation of mental, because mental is first. So we say all this to say, my man yelled out, "You're taking our women, you're taking over this country," and all of this bullshit. So what's the underlying basis of that? It's fear. I have to do this because I'm scared of y'all. Yeah. Is what he said. I have to do this because I'm scared that you're gonna fuck my girl with a bigger dick than me. You're gonna fucking take my jobs and have more money than me. I'm tired of seeing these Jay-Z motherfuckers on TV living better than my white ass. You understand what I'm saying? Because I'm a white man in America. Why is this black motherfucker flying in private jets and I'm fucking still on the bus? That's the feeling. And that's the fear. And they felt it was worth killing for. But now another thing I want to address real quick before we start moving on to other topics is, it just seems so, is this all coincidental that all of these things are happening right now? I just feel like they're really trying to incite black people to do some shit right now.
Like what?
Like uprise, like have some big riot so that they can come in the name of, keeping the peace and if they got to put motherfuckers in concentration camps and shit like that, they'll do it.
You think that'll really happen?
They're already built.
Concentration camps?
Concentration camps. They're already built.
I mean, do you just mean prisons?
No, I mean concentration camps.
What's the difference?
Well, prisons are, you know, formal formal structures, you know, with you know, locking mechanisms and all of that. These camps are more like temporary type of structures, although they are enclosed. But just think of a bunch of FEMA trailers where
Right.
they make motherfuckers live and keep them confined in there.
Well, if you remember, I mean, this was before both of our times, but I remember I read about this during World War II.
Yes, they put Japanese people in.
They took a bunch of Japanese U.S. citizens.
Yeah, U.S. citizens, because they were scared.
Some of which were even born in this country.
Absolutely. A lot of them were born in this country, and they put them in containment camps, which are concentration camps. I mean, what is concentration? You put a concentration of people, you know, in a camp. So they're already built, Vlad, and they just waiting for motherfuckers to fuck up. But what's so crazy is they've done such a good job on our generation as far as making us, you know, oblivious to a lot of political shit. Like, we don't even know how to really respond to a lot of political shit that goes on. So they're hoping that we're going to take the examples of the past and first start marching, and then riots, and then hopefully, you know, they're going to want some sort of an organization like the Panthers, a Panther type organization to spring up so that they can say, domestic terrorism. That's what we're waiting for. I mean, just yesterday, before this happened, the big news out here was that they caught two dudes who were doing a terrorist plot. And one of them lived in Staten Island. And he actually went after some FBI dudes with a knife. And now this dude that lived in Staten Island looked like a regular black dude. Okay?
Do you have any idea who he is, or do you know anyone who knows him? Or?
No. But what I'm saying is his facial profile. So usually when they talk about terrorism and Islamic terrorism, you know, it's going to be somebody from over there. But once they start now turning the shit around and looking internally at America, shit, a lot of the Muslims in America are black or African Americans. That's a lot of African American Muslims.
Well, you know, black and Middle Eastern.
Right. So now, but here's the thing.
Arabic, I guess.
Terrorism isn't confined to Muslims. So now when you have, let's say, some black people who are well-meaning, and they're like, you know what, I'm tired of this police brutality. I'm tired of the bullshit that's going on out here. We got to stand up for our people. We got to do something. And they start making moves which they feel are right and just. But these moves that they make, some of them might involve some violence or something like that. That's going to be looked at as terrorism, and these motherfuckers might have nothing to do with Islam, and not even think that what they're doing can be considered terrorism.
Well, I mean, one of the major domestic terrorists is Timothy McVeigh,
Right.
who was not Muslim.
No, he's a Christian.
He's a Christian, white Christian.
They don't call him a Christian terrorist.
They definitely called him a terrorist, though.
Oh, they called him a terrorist, but they didn't call him a Christian fundamentalist terrorist. The same way they say Islamic terrorists. See, these are all code words and things to try to get you thinking in a frame of mind. So right now, I'm calling this dude a Christian white supremacist terrorist. The dude that just did this shit in the church. And you're going to have to prove to me that he's not a Christian. Because as of now, I'm just going with that he's a Christian.
Well, let's talk about the Jimmy the Greek thing. I interviewed John Amos, a.k.a.
Oh, yes.
James Evans from Good Times, a.k.a. Kunta Kinte from Roots, a.k.a.
Cut the legs off him.
Yeah, a.k.a. The father from McDowell's Coming to America. And we actually talked about Jimmy the Greek. He brought it up.
Okay.
And he said Jimmy the Greek was 100% right. He should not have been fired.
And he was, Jimmy, I can't think of his name.
Jimmy the Greek.
Jimmy the Greek, right, exactly. Jimmy the Greek. And when he espoused that, he was subsequently fired. And I said, wait, why would you fire a man for telling the truth? He wasn't casting aspersions on anybody for doing it. He was just relating a historical fact.
John Amos actually was a professional football player.
Right.
At some point. Not he himself said he didn't have the greatest of careers.
Right.
But he still was. But he still was good enough to make it
to the pros.
To the pros, right? And he actually agreed. He felt that blacks in sports are dominant because of what happened during slavery.
Well, like I said, I agree. I just don't agree entirely. That's not the entire reason.
Well, let me ask you.
But that's one of the things.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why do you think Jimmy the Greek got fired?
Because he said some shit that I guess was politically incorrect for a white man to say about black people. And maybe we were, what year was this? Because maybe this was the beginning of political correctness in this country.
January 16th, 1988.
88, yeah. You see? They're planting the seeds for political correctness.
So here's the quote. The black is a better athlete to begin with because he's been bred to be that way, because of his high thighs and big thighs that go up into his back. They can jump higher and run faster because they're bigger thighs, and he's bred to be the better athlete because this goes back all the way to the Civil War during the slave trade.
Okay, stop right real quick.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you why, just by that wording, I'm going to tell you why he was fired. It's because of the description of what he's talking about. He's talking about the black man like he's a horse. Okay, when you start talking about high thighs and all of that, and he was bred, even though technically we were bred just like animals by these slave masters, but it's the way he's talking about it there that sounds very slave master-like, as if he's being very matter-of-fact about the horse that he's looking at. So that's why I would think, but continue.
So, I mean, there's only one last part, and he said the slave owner would breed his big black, I guess, man to his big woman so he could have a big black kid. Mm-hmm. Seems pretty accurate.
Yes. It's accurate, but it's the way he's saying it, though. You see?
Okay.
What he's saying is accurate, but it just sounds very, well, I'm a slave master and I know about this type of shit, and it just the descriptiveness of it sounds very shady. And at that time in '88, you did have a lot more fight the power, vocal black people that might be like, yo, did you hear what that motherfucker said? Like, and got at his ass. You see what I'm saying?
He also said, I guess in an interview, that if blacks take over coaching jobs, like everyone wants them to, there's not to be anything left for white people.
More fear. You see? More fear of a black planet.
Are there, I don't follow football very closely. Are there a lot of black coaches in the NFL?
I mean, there's a few, not as much as there should be, but there's a few now.
NBA?
And they're winning. Yeah, there's black coaches. There's black coaches. Now in Major League Baseball, there's black managers too, but that's still more of a white boy's field when it comes to coaching in baseball, it seems like. Now in hockey, I'm sure there's none.
Right.
Although we do have some black hockey players now, and there's actually one on the Canadiens that this motherfucker's nice.
Are there, baseball is not really dominated by blacks the same way that like football and
yeah, well, it was. Now it's being dominated by black
Spanish
people.
Yeah,
they're still black though.
So that bothers you when he said that, or not really?
Like I said, the substance of what he's saying, I don't have a problem with. It's how he's saying it that rubs me the wrong way.
Well, me and you talked about this offline not too long ago, but and this was touched on a little bit in Django, but there were actual breeding farms during slavery times, where men and women would be kept in cages like animals and be forced to mate and create large offspring, essentially. You know what was interesting actually
There's
is that
pamphlets out there how to make a slave.
Yeah.
It goes into the science of breeding and what you got to do to break a slave, and it's all very, very horse-like, very
written out.
Yeah, they got it down to a science.
But the other day, I had heard a rumor about this, about someone was telling me that about this, so I actually followed up. So I'm friends with Mr. Marcus, the male porn guy, right? And I had heard a rumor from someone else, because he was talking to them, that his great grandfather was a stud.
Okay.
Was one of these black slaves that was used to impregnate other female slaves. And I guess and I talked to him about it, and he goes, yeah, because my grandfather mentioned it to me one day, that his great grandfather was one of these studs. And I guess what I do for a living now is just carried on from.
It runs in my blood.
Yeah, it runs in my blood, basically.
I'm a stud by blood, not relation.
And it was interesting because he actually seemed kind of proud of it. I'm like that's fucked up. He goes, well, okay, I guess. He's like, well, but this is, I guess it runs in my blood, and this is what I do.
He's a porn star.
Yeah, so it's a little bit.
I think his mind is.
His mind's a little bit.
Yeah, it's not regular.
His mind's a little bit different than the rest of us. He thinks more with his dick than the average male. but he actually admitted to it and was like, yeah, I have sex for a living. My great grandfather had sex for a living, I guess. And
hopefully my boy is gonna have sex for a living, and we're gonna keep this thing right on going to the end of time.
Does that bother you when you hear that?
Does it bother me that he's proud of it?
Yeah.
That's his thing. I don't, it doesn't bother me. But is it kind of stupid to be, are we as black people proud of some dumb shit a lot of times? Yeah, we are.
I guess bragging about how much prison time you did, that type of shit.
Right.
Nothing to be proud of.
No. I got mad kids I don't take care of and shit. Come on, man. That's not nothing to be proud of.
I mean, it's kind of a horrific thing to think that humans were bred like horses.
Or dogs.
Or whatever. Pigs, chickens. I mean, it really is. Lizards. I mean, it really doesn't make that much of a difference, really, in the animal world. No. It's accepted. In fact, I believe that the highest paid athlete in the world is actually a male stud horse. Because they get paid upwards to $100,000, or maybe even $250,000. There's some astronomical number that they got paid to impregnate other horses because they're Triple Crown winners.
Yeah, well, American Pharaoh, that's what I'm saying. He's getting ready to, the horse that just won the Triple Crown, he's getting ready to get stud fees out of this world.
Well, a lot of times, I mean, I remember I watched some documentaries about this. It's not so much that the horse itself was a champion, it's that its offspring become champions. So sometimes the top stud horses were kind of mediocre themselves, but their offspring were becoming champions over and over again.
Right.
So it's okay.
But if you have one that actually was a champion
and could produce other champions,
now they're expecting the offspring to be crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's insane to really hear that. And I guess that the thing that has always sort of bothered me about this type of thing is that you could be taught by your parents and your grandparents that, during slavery times, that blacks aren't really human, they can't read, they're not as intelligent as us, they're a lower life form, this, that, and the third. But once
all shit that's said out of fear.
Right.
Go ahead.
But once you interact with these people, you realize that all that's not true.
Right.
You know, once, you know, because you're around these people, so you interact with them. Sooner or later, you start to realize that they're about as smart as you, or even smarter. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you can't just keep living, you can't keep drinking this Kool-Aid your whole life. At some point, you're like, yeah, that's bullshit. These people, we're the same species.
And that struck certain people. And what struck certain white people was, you know, the black man and woman's capacity for love, even amongst these conditions. The fact that we can still laugh, love each other, and even have love for the slave master himself, the one that treated you like a dog or a horse and all this type of shit, that the black man still had love for this man. That's where some white people was like, well, goddamn, like, you know, this is crazy. Like, this is, you know, the ones that were able to really, you know, because all people can relate to compassion. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when you see compassion out there, I don't care what color you are, what religion you are, everybody respects compassion. You know what I mean?
You know, culturally, what I found is that black people are definitely a lot more accepting of everybody, their own race, other races, and so forth. You know, I've definitely, you know, throughout my life, dating, you know, as I've dated various black women, and I met their families were always extremely, come on in, you're part of the family, you know.
And this is how civilization proliferated. Because if we were fearful to share our knowledge with other cultures and peoples, motherfuckers wouldn't be nowhere right now. This planet Earth would be, you just have small pockets of, you know, Africa would be the shit and everybody else would be fucked up. If we didn't have the spirit to say, to see you crawling around, you know, in the caves and not fucking burying your dead and not having no real fucking place to live. They say, you know what? Come on. We're going to give you this. We're going to teach you some shit. We're going to help you live a better life, because that's no way to live. And we've done that time and time again on this planet Earth, only to get spitted back in our face by the very people that we fucking helped.
Yeah, my cousins, they were avid watchers in porn and had saw me on MILF Hunters.
Okay.
They saw me on MILF Hunters, and they went out and actually bought a movie and took it to my grandmother.
You're the only person, one of the few people that looks like you. In my case, one of the only ones that was light-skinned. Our family was light. Therefore, when we go to our village, and when I actually buried my father, I had to bury him. I had to bring a lot of AK-47s.